What is buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
Hey there, buffer timers. We're here on another Sunday, just the two of us. Gonna talk a little casual racism from the 1980s. I'm Dustin from Best of Tech, Worst of Trek.
And my name is Vanessa, and I host a YouTube channel called I Love Ben Star Trek. So this is very up my alley.
One difference. And yeah, like if anybody here has not seen Vanessa's take on this or video from a couple of years ago, you should go watch it after this, because it is a wonderful, zany adventure. Anywho, being just the two of us, I don't think we're going to be here for very long today.
Right.
I think most everything that needs to be said about this episode has been said by somebody at some point. But we'll go off with our takes on it. So
on this day of the fourth day of Black History Month, perfect timing to talk about this.
No, we just picked this episode at random. I was like, let's just do a bad episode. All right, let's Code of Honor. That's the one. So I guess our two two white people here will check our privilege at the door. But is this episode racist? I guess we need to start there.
I mean, it's not even an opinion. It's like the cast themselves have said it's a racist piece of shit, to quote Jonathan Frakes. Worf is noticeably absent and clearly isn't a fan. The Geordie LaForge, the actor, LeVar Burton, not a fan either. So, hello, hi.
What's up, Gannon?
Oh, hey, what's up, y'all? Do you guys have room for one more white person to share?
Yes.
Okay, word.
Now we've got East
okay?
Coast, West Coast, and Middle America. And yes, can hear you just fine.
Awesome. I just joined abruptly, so I hope I didn't cut anybody off.
No, very, very, very good timing.
Okay, awesome. I guess I just wanted to share my opinion real quick because I saw there wasn't too many people here. So, I guess this episode's kind of like terrible. Like the borderline question is it racist? And it absolutely is. And I think the most easy way to conceptualize that is the fact that these are just not aliens. Like they're literally just black people. Like they're just human black people. They didn't make any type of effort to put like some kind of alien aesthetic to them. They didn't give them any type of horns or like forehead ridges or anything. I think it's perfectly fine to explore fictional alien races, but this is just straight up black people, just to put it blankly.
Also signaling a sort of Pan-African vibe as well. So it's like there's no mistaking it for what it's meant to be trained to read as. If they were trying to go for something else, and the fact that they call them humanoids is really the only indication that we have that there's any sort of differentiation between human beings and these folks. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty on the nose as far as racism.
They don't really shed this alien culture in that good of a light. They shed them as a proud culture who just abducts people. There's so many things just wrong with the episode too, from a writing standpoint. It's just trash. Like I watched it when I saw that Dustin was going to do a live stream on this episode, and I saw like hella plot holes. They didn't really try hard. And they weren't really trying to be respectful to anyone, whether they be a fictional alien race or they be Africans from planet Earth, because those aren't aliens. Those are just Africans from planet Earth, and you're calling them Ligonians. And for one thing, the Ligonians don't make any sense. They have this, traditional culture to them. And they have this very powerful leader among them who's willing to invoke that culture to abduct Lieutenant Yar for his own purposes. And in the episode, they straight up, when he's like, oh, when it's time to give her back, he's like, I have found it's time that I cannot part with her. And everybody's like, gasp.
Yeah, it
And
just comes out of nowhere.
His wife is like, I immediately do the right of succession or whatever it's called.
Supersedence.
Supersedence. Thank you. And the guard is literally like, nobody has done the right of supersedence for 200 years. And I'm like, that is cap. No way it has been 200 years since you guys have used the fucking right of supersedence. That is no, come on. Doesn't make any sense. Like, you cannot be the only dude in this culture that a certain gender holds all of the land and property. You cannot be the only dude trying to commit this weird insurance fraud. In the last 200 years? No. And another thing, they have teleportation technology. They have transporters. They're the same as the Federation transporters. They're just red and kind of maniacal looking, kind of like how they try to make the Klingons look in some scenes. They try to make it look a little bit red and menacing. And the biggest problem I have with this episode that actually made my head explode is that they never also kind of explain how they're able to interact with these people and it not be a breach of the Prime Directive, because, okay, they don't understand holodecks. They actually say in the episode that they are weary of strangers, especially ones with better technology of them. So it's not like this is a well-known vaccine that like other planets are trading for, and they are aware of interplanetary travel. And just keep in mind that there are other episodes where Captain Picard is literally like, oh, well, guys, there's a whole planet of people down there. They have to die for the Prime Directive. But because we need this vaccine for the boss upstairs, we're allowed to talk to the Ligonians. For what purpose? They don't seem like they should be in a war planetary treaty at all.
No, like yeah. And they also call it an antidote a couple times. Vaccine, antidote. Can you
Not the
cure
same thing.
Can you cure a fever with an antidote? Does that make any sense? Yeah. Or is it a cure? Is it what is it?
Honestly, Captain Picard, he's just playing it way too nice too. He's really committed to that diplomat role, but Captain Pike's ass would have just got his crew up and stolen the flower and like grew it himself at this point. You know what I'm saying? And I get that that's a different part of the timeline where, Star Trek and Starfleet is not as corporate, but I mean, he's really just doing whatever it takes to get that plant from these people. And he doesn't really care about anything else.
Also, he shot the planet. He shot it right after she got kidnapped. He just shoots it.
Oh, didn't he fire off like a blank?
It was a warning shot.
Yeah.
Warning shots, but he shot at the planet.
Yeah. And
that's not
normally in like Voyager or something, they would reveal that the planet has some spaceships or something, maybe to try and defend, like create a blockade. And they would always be like, oh, well, that shitty blockade's not good against the main character starship because the main character starship's really great. But this is a low budget episode, low effort in every stretch imaginable.
Yeah. So going back to, I never answered, is it racist? I'm going to check my white boy opinion at the door, but I don't think it's quite racist. It is definitely the most culturally appropriating thing I think I've ever seen on television. And it does have some damaging, problematic stuff aside from the bad writing, for sure. But when you look at episodes like Up the Long Ladder, that is just written as overtly racist. At least this race, like Gannon pointed out, they're a proud race. They're a strong, proud people. Okay, great. What did we depict the Irish as? Oh, you mean just completely and totally stereotypical Irish? Wonderful.
Well, also,
are you talking about the guys from the holodeck on Voyager?
No. Up the Long Ladder. I can get a picture.
That one?
The TNG episode
group
that
of
they find
a group of Irish people.
Okay, and then they have to have them breed with the clone race at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Real Federation-like behavior.
Now
You
that's
must
an episode
breathe.
I can call like it's written as overtly goddamn racist.
Right.
Where
Like
this
there's
it's not good, and it is very problematic from a racial standpoint. But I don't think it is racist.
I think
Maybe if it
it
had been completed by the first director.
I
Sorry,
think
Vanessa, go ahead.
no,
okay,
go ahead.
sorry.
I think there's things like the way that this was originally planned was for this to be a reptilian race that was samurai based off of samurai, right? And not that this is the first go around with like racially coded aliens using a stereotype to mark them as alien. But in this case, like it would still be not great to code a minority as aggro inherently. But with Black folks, it is specifically harmful in a multitude of ways. The fact that they kidnap a white woman, okay,
Yeah,
and
that's the
that's
worst
like a
problem.
huge, that is a huge trope, you know. And no, I can't speak for other people's experience, but again, it's not really a matter of opinion. The cast themselves have said that it's racist. So like, and also saying that they even bring up, like Picard even brings up during the episode, like you act as we used to in a very destructive way. So the implication is that they're less evolved. And that's a whole other framing with the Prime Directive, that they're less evolved, you know, that I'm not a fan of. Less evolved people that happen to be Black and calling them alien, humanoid. Ooh, it's like there's so many things they could have written out of this story to not make it racist, but they just ran right into it and didn't do anything about it. So, yikes.
So I guess that begs another question. If the Ligonians were some random alien race with prosthetic foreheads of the weak, would the story have been better?
Yeah, literally. I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this, and I'm not going to I mention who they are or anything, but I was watching some Star Trek content on some reels, and it was a podcast, and the people on the podcast were asking whether Alexander, whether his character is blackface because the actor playing that character is white, and Worf, they said Worf is a black Klingon because his brother Kern is also played by a black actor. And I just didn't agree with that at all, because I even wrote like a comment or something saying like, I just don't even know why we're associating human people of color with Klingons at all, like they're a fictional alien race. Um, I don't really think it's even proper for you to say there's like black and white Klingons. For one thing,
There,
they're from like a volcanic planet where you don't even really get much sunlight, and they're in these dark ass ships. They probably have like a wide range of skin complexions for many reasons. I don't know why we're assigning like human properties to Klingons.
Well,
also, like in TOS though, lot of brown face.
well,
Yeah,
not just that, the makeup
Ugh.
the
palettes
makeup
were
were bad.
yeah,
The
they were
makeup was
labeled.
really bad. It was really cheap makeup, and it was insensitive, and it doesn't look good by today's standards at all. But you also have to realize that it is it's the 60s. I don't think
You
they were
could try.
trying to do that. I don't think they're trying to do that. If you go back and look at the Klingons too, it really does they just look like dark skinned people with very sharp facial hair features. They're kind of like
That's why like the Ligonians kind of are Klingons from Wish to me. You know, even more so than the bad guys in Voyager who have like coral for hair.
Oh, not the
Kurt, they should start with a K.
Kazon.
The Kazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's giving we're not trying very hard to differentiate this from TOS at all. And that's pretty much Like if they changed the coding of these aliens to not echo a racial stereotype and just made them little pink goobly guys, we would still have a TOS episode that is not even serviceable level good. And there's even like the point of Next Generation, I thought, was to differentiate it from, you know, TOS. That was sort of the point. But we have like very similar beats. We have like a fight to the death. We have that music and the same vibe. You know, it's amok time, but make it racist. Like, wow.
I guess I was just trying to say really that Klingons aren't black people, like they're a fictional alien race, and for them to say that Alexander is in somehow blackface, it's just totally disconnected from the character. It's like almost saying that fans who go to the cons dressed up as Worf for Alexander are doing blackface if they're not black. It's just like Klingons aren't black people.
I guess we should know better now than to darken our skin just in general. We can be different color Klingons, though. We don't have to. You know, like the head thing would be enough. We don't have, like, yeah.
Klingons are played by white people and their skin is darkened. It's a very small minority of them that are actually black. I just don't think that Klingons have anything to do with black people.
Yeah.
And especially if you're talking about Alexander and we're talking about like who played them, then his mom was played by Susie Plaxton, who's a white woman, so who cares?
But why make them this color? Why not something any other color?
Because they live on a volcanic planet.
Right, then we could make them red, you know? Like,
but that's insensitive to Native Americans. We couldn't make them red. Well, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say.
Primary color red?
Well, yeah, because you can't have red-skinned people. That's a racist depiction of Native Americans. That's why popular sports teams like the Redskins and the Cleveland Indians can no longer use those depictions, and they've had to change their brand.
DC. That wasn't the problem. That wasn't that's it. Well, we can talk about this more in depth, but that's like primary red skin. That's not what. I'm not sure how that reads, but yeah, they could have made them any other color, green, purple, anything, but they made them brown for a really long time, and they stopped in Discovery, and I think that's noteworthy. Even though like
dark-skinned Klingons, and there were actually Klingons in Discovery that were legitimately just like pitch dark black. There were many different colors of Klingons in Discovery, and they even had a narrative about Klingon race by having an albino Klingon that they were racist towards, Vogue. But I think the only thing I was trying to say is that like it's a little bit unrealistic to expect that if we're going to have a different alien race for like 600 plus episodes, that we can only do really bright, bubbly colors. Like we're going to experience aliens that have darker skin complexions on volcanic planets. I don't think it's bad that the Klingons are dark skinned. They're just an alien race that has dark skin. They're not black people.
Okay. So before we get away from all of the racial talk, oh god, I had one more question and now I've lost it. Oh, is it actually a tragedy that we've never seen another completely dark-skinned race, probably because of the reception of this episode?
A tragedy? I don't think it's a tragedy. We don't really need one, but I just don't think it really matters what color the alien is.
We just didn't need an entire planet of black people. Or like if they made it like an entire planet of Japanese people, like they sort of were trying to shoot for before, like they just the very premise itself, that's really what the weak point is. The premise itself, the thing that marks them as alien, the thing that Picard is trying to like moralize, to get on a moral high horse about, that we're more evolved and blah blah blah, like coding them as another race, and then a white guy saying we're more evolved. That's not No.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Oh yeah, Norman from the last what we were talking about before there. That is, yep, good old Jimmy.
I love Chakotay and how like weird and like his depiction is so bad. It's like especially at the start of Voyager. Remember when Tom Paris was like, "Oh, I saved your life. Does that mean I own you now? According to Native American customs, I like own you." He said something really bad in the first two-parter episode that made me cringe. It was really bad. And also, like Chakotay's portrayal is kind of inaccurate, I think, and people don't really like it. And then on top of that, I think Chakotay's actor is like a kind of a bad person.
He just
Yeah, you're not wrong.
he gave up. Basically, he just didn't. They weren't developing his character, and so like I love how we went in one episode from he's a traitor to, oh, he's my trusted first officer, with no time at all. He submits to her immediately. She trusts him immediately. There's no character development that explains that whatsoever. It's just none of our fucking business.
He's also like always trying to get the captain high.
She's too busy like being a nanny to
You want
little kids for some freaking reason.
You want to know what like one of my least favorite episodes in Trek I'd put at the bottom 10 of my list easily is that episode where they strand Janeway and Chakotay on a planet because they have a disease that can't be cured, and they just leave them there, and there's a monkey for some reason.
I love that episode.
I'm sorry, Dustin.
It's not like my favorite or anything, but
I'm sorry, Dustin.
No, I love the bonding, and I hate that it never pays off as a relationship.
Yeah, I never for 1 second like shipped Janeway and Chakotay even for a second. I think that's why I found the episode quite boring, and then just the fact that there's a fucking monkey there for like whatever reason, and Chakotay is always just like, oh no, just give up and let's build a life here. Just give up on Voyager, bro. Come on. She's
in love with the monkey.
I don't read romance novels, but I would read that extended script. I would read the shit out of it.
I think I'm good. She falls in love with the monkey. That was even Catherine. You know, the lady who plays Janeway. Well, her name isn't Catherine. Sorry,
Kate Mulgrew.
Kate Mulgrew. So I guess it's Catherine. But anyhow, like she said that it was really weird that the monkey was there. Like, what was that?
Yeah, man, I never understood the monkey part. The monkey like knew when the storms were coming and everything. It was hilarious. I wanted to mention something, and I want to know if you guys agree with me, because we're talking about like racism in Star Trek is the topic. I think one of the things that has always sat really wrong with me about Star Trek in general is the new Kelvin timeline movie. Something they didn't, I think, is like borderline racism is when they, for no reason, zero reason, they had Sulu go out onto the saucer of the ship, and he was like fighting enemies with a samurai blade. Why? Just because he's Asian? Like Sulu is he's a swordsman, but he is into Western swordplay explicitly. He's a fencer. Like, I think there's an explicit line from the TOS that like says.
Well, it's an explicit thing that George Takei had them put in there because it was originally supposed to be him with a katana.
That was
like,
a
no.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this.
So I just thought that when I watched that, it sat so wrong with me, because it's like, bro, of all the fucking crew members, you're giving him a samurai sword just because he's Asian. You literally have no excuse for that. Zero. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of people. Like, why? We have so much technology. We're flying in a ship that can go warp 10, and you're having this dude who could be using a phaser use a samurai sword on the saucer section of a ship. Why are they even fighting on the saucer section? That shouldn't even be possible. It should be dead.
I would like to hear what God, why am I so terrible with names today? The original actor who played Sulu has to say about that, because
George.
it was George Takei. Thank you. Yeah, he explicitly avoided using that sword for that purpose. So like it's kind of I see the Kelvin versus sort of shitting on Star Trek in a lot of ways, but that's pretty egregious.
To be fair, though, they then did probably the only thing that I like about Star Trek Beyond, where they finally canonized Sulu being gay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
But I just hope they I'm so annoyed as a person who really likes Star Trek, and like I consider myself a fan, and I'm just annoyed every 2 weeks I get an update like this particular actor wants to get paid and wants Star Trek 4. Like the fans really think we need an update on this shit every week. Like of course every member of that cast wants to collect 20 plus million dollars from Paramount. Of course, every one of them does. They all want the movie to be made. But I just don't think they're good movies. I don't think that they should explore a fourth one. They should do something new. And I know we have that Section
Yes.
31 movie coming out, and Michelle Yeoh is amazing, but I'm worried about it. They haven't confirmed to me that they're casting the one person who I think should be cast, which is that dude who played Michael Burnham's boyfriend in season 1.
Yeah, Tyler.
Oh.
Yeah, that was one of the very few things that I actually loved about Discovery. And it's the reason I hate Cleveland Booker, is because his relationship with Burnham is so ass. And like the one that they had with Tyler in season 1 was so complex and dramatic and interesting and scandalous. And yeah, I just really want him to be in the movie.
It was also abusive, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was. He was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a terrible, traumatic situation. He was like 2 people surgically put into one person. I'm not saying that it's a good relationship or anything, that it promotes what a relationship should be. I just thought that it was far more entertaining than what we have with Book.
I just think Book and Burnham would have been better served just like being on their own ship, having their own adventures. She seemed much happier there.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we never got like a comic book series about that whole year that they were together in the future before Discovery got there. I was fully expecting that.
It's so funny to me when shows choose to skip over the best parts of something, like, oh, we had all these adventures and we're just not going to share them. It's like the worst when people tell instead of show. Code of honor, everyone.
Yeah, we have gotten so far away from our topic, but that's okay because there's like we said at the beginning, this has all been said before, and we're just kind of chiming in.
Sorry,
Mhm.
I ramble. Sorry.
No,
you
don't
apologize
apologize.
Yeah.
This is just a casual, fun chat.
As much as it can be about this.
And then there's always, again, because I just want to be inflammatory, I just have to bring up, I'm not going to say it, but we all know the most racist moment in all of Star Trek was in actually one of my favorite episodes, unfortunately, The City on the Edge of Forever, when Captain Kirk is talking to the policeman. You know the scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I can't put it in my top 100.
Yeah, I love the episode so much. Everything outside of that really 60s moment, that is just terrible. Really, really bad and insensitive. It's probably like one of the things that you show to your friends about Star Trek to completely shock them. Another thing that I like to show, and it's definitely not really that bad. It's kind of like Batman, the Hammer of Justice is unisex, but I think it's so out of pocket the way that Captain Kirk punched the green-haired girl in the Thrall episode. Do you guys remember that?
Bones also punched a pregnant woman.
Is that in the episode?
Julie Newmar even.
Oh yeah, no, he did slap her because she wasn't behaving.
Her.
She wasn't behaving, so he felt the need to slap her.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it worked. She like fell in love with him or had a crush on him after he slapped her because they were depicting some really proud warrior race. There's a lot of female violence in the TOS.
For sure. But this one is definitely giving like when Luton kidnaps Lieutenant Yar, it's very like Emmett Till coded, very it's a horrible trope, and they chose to repeat it and didn't turn away. Like, and the fact that they Data says later in the episode, hey, this is a show of bravery for him, that it was a counting coup, a show of bravery. I don't think he chose to kidnap Lieutenant Yar because she's especially strong. I guess because she can fight, but I think that's more amusing to him than
I think that's what
useful.
turns him on.
Exactly. And it's a nice saving face line, but I don't think that's what's happening here.
And hey, Del, sorry you're having computer issues today, so you can't join us. But what Del just brought up was a question that Vanessa had submitted kind of to here. What would happen if this was made today on any of the currently running Star Trek shows?
Oh,
How would this
man.
play out?
If they actually dropped this episode to the public and aired it, it would be really bad. It would be really, really bad.
How do you think it would be approached today, though? If the directors and the cast and the producers had this script dropped in their lap, how would it come out in, let's say, Strange New Worlds? I mean, you had already said, Gannon, that like, yeah, Pike would have already gone down and gotten the flower, but how would the whole thing with like Yar play out? And like, so if La'an got taken by Lutan, go.
I think they would have to make this proud race of warrior folks much more violent than the way that they depict them here. They would have to take the racial coding out, because the point of the moral point of the episode, as Star Trek is, sort of like fables of how we could be better as people, we would have to really up the ante in terms of brutality. We would maybe not kidnap a woman. So to make the point that, we're more evolved, we don't need violence to resolve things, like it would have to be rather pronounced, not just a little slap and tickle with the Glaven. That's the name of the weapon, by the way.
The one that they were
the
wearing during
spiky
the
ball,
fight.
yeah. Glaven, Worf actually has that weapon in his quarters as well in a few episodes, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, they would have to adjust certain beats of this quite a lot.
Dude, I was thinking about how to make this episode better. It's really hard, and I think that you actually just have to take the aggression out of the episode. I would just maybe suggest, instead of making what is the main guy's name again?
Lutan?
What is it? Sorry.
Lutan?
Sorry. I'm having trouble with names today too. But I just think that maybe you make it like they're doing like the interaction for the vaccine and everything, and maybe Lutan, instead of being this dick who's interested in money and land, maybe actually make it like a real social situation where he sees a random ensign on the ship and he actually like falls in love at first sight, and maybe make it like a very scandalous love story where he's put in this position to like, okay, just go back to his planet and be with his wife or something, or maybe just like something like that. Just take the aggression out of the episode.
It wasn't the casting director, by the way, Norman. It was the actual director. His name was Russ Mayberry, and he didn't direct very many. He never directed any Star Trek.
Back to
Ever
what
again,
you said
yeah.
earlier with the Emmett Till situation, like I completely agree. I don't really know how you can get away with depicting an African-looking alien race like just abducting a white woman. It's terrible.
Mm-mm.
It's a terrible thing to do. I don't know. We just have to take the aggression out of it. Like if you're going to give me the script and I have to have Lutan doing something with Lieutenant Lon, I'm definitely not going to have him abduct her. Like, we have to change something about the episode and just take the aggression out of it.
And in the original script, apparently there's more of a connection between Lieutenant Yar and Luton, that Luton like murdered her uncle or something. So there's some other emotional background there. And I think entwining these folks more would have made the emotional stakes a little bit better. But that's really putting lipstick on a pig at this point, because it's not there's so much about the weight of this episode that needs to be adjusted, and this sort of like the fight to the death stakes, we know that they're not really going to have Lieutenant Yard die. They're probably planning on something, and they do, and they actually break the prime directive that they swore not to break by interfering with the fight that they said they weren't going to interfere with. So there's like a lot of writing flubs that sort of go back and forth that I don't like. It's just that one scene with Data and Geordi in shaving and telling a joke that doesn't work, and that's the funny one. That's the one scene that makes this watchable.
That was another question we had, was, is the shaving scene the best part of the episode? I think so.
Yes.
What would you do, Dustin? You put us on the spot. What would you do?
I don't know that anybody can do anything better with that. Because after they fired the original director, Russ Mayberry, we get Les Landau, the man who's directed more Star Trek than any other director. Now, granted, this is at the beginning of TNG, and the first time he's gotten... Actually, I think it's the second, because he was... I think he had something to do with like the second part of the first episode or something. Anyway, it's like at the beginning of his Trek career, but still, if he can't save it, I don't know that anybody can. And I guess if you just make it another race, like if it's the Gorn or whatever the case may be.
Right.
I got
like I guess it's, and Dell here has made a point, like it would, like they could make it with different race and have plot point be racial separatists, if that's a word. It would explain the tribal nature without making it a random Africans. I think even making the tribal thing and saying that we're more evolved than tribal people is doing it's creating the same problem, just with different coat of paint. We got to get away from this, like, these race of people are less evolved and warrior like and just so happen to be whatever. Like,
so speaking of coats of paint on and pick stick on a lipstick on a pig, do you think that the addition of women owning the land in this culture brings any amount of progressive charisma to the script?
Not when you put them in the position of the ex-wife when she's powerless because of her husband's actions, because that's just not an equal matrimony. That's just like the man having the power in the relationship to fuck her over. And no, so like them being the landowner doesn't really matter at the end of the day when you're not really equal, when that land can be taken from you through like sinister planning and like basically like insurance fraud.
To Dell's question, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like, throughout the episode, the folks on Lagonia, whatever, that's not the name of their planet, but like they're constantly portrayed as less evolved. If that's the way the messaging is going to go, if we're going to talk about racism like that, then yes, we shouldn't do it. That's why this episode's so bad. Yeah, to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Star Trek can address racism in the cheeky way that it's addressed lots of things as a similarity, as a simile to something else. I'm not even sure that the original "Let This Be Your Last Battlefield" from TOS, even though it has that overtly racial message, which the message is pretty good, but they also executed that episode on a really poor level. I mean, above this one for sure.
Is this the one where they're half black, half white?
Yeah, half black, half white.
Okay, so it's
Yep.
like the butter side up, butter side down thing. Okay.
That episode is ridiculous. It is the most like explicit Twilight Zone-y thing I've ever seen.
I the color choices again, not the best, but what they got across to me, which is important, was that the reason that they're pitted against each other is arbitrary. And I thought that was a very good way to get that across, that these are just made up binaries and there's really no reason to be pitted against each other at all based on that alone.
An episode of the TOS that doesn't really have to do with like race regarding skin pigment, but like different classes and different ethnic groups, is the Cloud Miners episode when they had the race of the troglodytes living down below. I love that episode. I rewatch it at least twice a year. That one's really good. It's entertaining.
Okay.
There's a lot of cool moments. In the end, Captain Kirk goes fucking crazy, and I love it when Captain Kirk acts like a complete psychopath. It's hilarious. He does it a lot.
He's so like, yeah, when he's really like embodying his Shatnerisms, it's like not necessarily because it's a good episode, but it's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. I love it when he acts like a complete freak. It's the best. He does it like, oh, and my other favorite thing about Captain Kirk is something that I wish they would bring back. I swear that no other captain in Star Trek, they all stop having like an obsession with the ship. They start prioritizing the crew way more than the ship. And Captain Kirk was almost like in love with his ship, like had a relationship with it, was obsessed with protecting the Enterprise, and would easily exterminate all the senior staff in a heartbeat to keep it protected. He was completely obsessed with the Enterprise, and I love that about him. I wish there would be another. I wish there would be another captain out there that had like maybe a slightly unhealthy relationship with the ship.
I mean, that's what a captain is, right? They're married to the ship, just like a nun's married to God or whatever. It's like the same relationship. Mm-hmm. I do think that Star Trek and other episodes, and just the principle of the show itself, addresses racism in a much better fashion than this episode ever does. Like, there's so many episodes where the point is to overcome differences and come to a mutual understanding. That's really like the main crux of the show, and the ship itself having like a multiracial crew is supposed to communicate that as well, where we can bond together and work together to build a better reality with each other, rather than depicting each other in rather uncharitable lights based on stereotypes. So that's how I see Star Trek. I wish you would push it a little further, especially in our modern day with the Trek that's out now. Like, it's not very focused on messages right now to me, other than, oh yes, the casting choices are awesome. Beyond that, we aren't pushing the envelope like Roddenberry did or like TNG did, message wise. And I find that a little disappointing.
Yeah, I think that is my biggest gripe with new Trek. I don't care that it's not the same format or that we're doing things different than we used to do them. The only thing I'm mad about is that the cohesive element up until new Trek was that a lot of it had a moral, a message, something that it was trying to say. And now we're just trying to tell a fun story, which is okay, but we don't get a lot of these, trying to make a point episodes.
I really wish that we could tell the story of United Earth in Trek, like how that came about. I think that would be incredibly relevant right now, instead of these sort of like, yay, we have guns, pew pew. we got the bad guys again. Like it's very Roadrunner, and I'm a little sick of it.
Dell mentioned in the chat about the Deep Space Nine episode where they land on the planet with Kaiopaka and all the soldiers can't die. And man, I love that episode so much. And you were also talking about like we could like write another Star Trek episode. If I could write a Star Trek episode in like if I could write a new show, I would take it place like during the around the Lower Decks era, because that's where we're at right now in the timeline. That's really, if we wanted to be productive about lore, we wouldn't be doing prequels, we wouldn't be doing movies about pre-existing crews. We would be exploring like the current part of the timeline that we don't know. And also, who's to like, I honestly don't know if the future depicted in Discovery is going to stick and be like canon forever. I don't know if that's the case. It's very bold to jump that far ahead into the future and depict what Star Trek is going to be, but we really should be in the Lower Decks area of the timeline. And I would write an episode where Kaiopaka has been dying on that planet for like damn near 50 plus years now, and we're finally able to go and save all the people on the planet and Kaiopaka, and it's during a time in which Bajor needs a new Kai, like during a very tense maybe civil war type time where they need like a good Kai, and it'd be like, oh, Kaiopaka's returning and she's the same age she was in that episode because she's just been regenerating and not aging. And I feel like that would be really interesting. And we could also put a lot of great Deep Space Nine fan service scenes in it because I'm addicted to those.
I think DS9 is probably the best series when it comes to issues of racism.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the best.
The way that, I mean, Miles O'Brien talks to his wife about what he thinks about Cardassians based on his experiences in war, and, uses that stereotype to characterize everybody. And his wife is like, hello? No, that's wrong and racist.
I love it when she says that's a really ugly word you just said. That's a great scene.
I wish they took it I wish they took it a little bit further, because they are literally in an interracial relationship. I know that alien races are not analogous to human races for a reason. However, the parallel is there, that like their cultures at the very beginning, remember, like she would try to feed him her food, and he would try to feed her his food, and it didn't work, and their cultures were meshing. It's like the parallel is right there in front of your face. Why can't we actually speak to it? I don't know.
I really liked it when you brought up Keiko, because it reminded me something I wanted to bring up for this live, is that I always felt it was super out of touch how Japanese they made Keiko. It's like she is Japanese, or she is a botanist, or she's complaining. And that's like it's a little bit weird how we have not allowed kind of traditional culture to spread through into the 24th century. Like, we don't really celebrate old holidays at all. I think they mentioned Thanksgiving once in the TOS, like once offhand. But Keiko is like so Japanese that her wedding is super Japanese. Everything she eats is super Japanese. Literally anything that is mentioned about her that isn't about her job, botany, or fighting with Miles, is just about Japan. And it was just like hyper pushing the narrative that that's her culture. And I always thought that was a little bit like, oh, this was written by white people. They really wanted to let us know that she's a Japanese person that's a part of the cast.
Right. I wish, again, like the lack of diversity in the writer's room is reflected in the material. Look at the material, So I that wedding dress haunts me. It's so shiny. Anyway, like, and I mean, she also gave birth in like a shiny thing. Anyways, so yeah, I agree. wholeheartedly that they just sort of leaned into the stereotype. It's also notable that Gene Roddenberry got married in like a Shinto ceremony too. So, you know, maybe that had something to do with why she's so emphatically this culture. And other people aren't. You know, have you noticed that it's sort of like other Earth cultures are sort of flattened, except for hers, which is interesting. I wish, yeah, we definitely need a diverse writers room to reflect the actual lived experiences of these folks. And honestly, Culber on Discovery sharing his experience with the standing ceremony in one of the Discovery episodes, I thought that was like that felt genuine to his experience. That he's shared like what it was like to, you know, there's a tradition where folks are like put in an action pose in certain places of the world when they're being shown for a funeral. It's not just like a casket, they're like sitting up and doing something. And he was like dealing cards and that because his uncle like dealt cards. I just really enjoyed that because it's like if we're gonna go the cultural route, like talking about Earth cultures, like why not use it? Why not use this as a platform for that? I don't know. I mean, like Ahura, we didn't know anything about her until Strange New Worlds. Yeah. You know, so it's like we're only just now seeing these people as like fully rounded people-ish. Not to say that the writers' room couldn't use some diversifying now. Although she did not come across that way, although she often discarded. Yeah, she was also, she kind of played like the hyper capable Asian stereotype to me. Like she kind of knew, was a whiz, you know. But I love how like her abilities had practical applicability. I just the realism to be able to hear bubbles and be able to translate it is a little pushing it, but you know.
All right, let's pull it back for the last 10 minutes here to a couple of important things. So, the title of this episode today is this the worst episode of Star Trek? Now, also a question to keep in mind during this, during the big 50th anniversary convention, they did a poll, and this was ranked as second worst, with These Are the Voyages being the worst. So, is this the worst? Is These Are the Voyages worst, or
So
something else?
is These Are the Voyages? What is that episode? Because the worst
The
episode of Star Trek.
finale of Enterprise.
Oh, okay. Listen, man, I need to do research into this because you know I was very young when Enterprise came out and it was canceled. Was it just didn't get high ratings or something? Is that why they canceled it? Like it just wasn't making enough
Yeah, I
money?
mean, I had tuned out after season 1, and I like it now, but, you know, me and a lot of other Trekkies, we'd kind of already tuned out by the time it got good.
Yeah, because I honestly think that if you watch all 4 seasons, the first one, admittedly, is really kind of tough to get through. I agree, but yeah, I think Enterprise is fucking phenomenal. I think the worst episode of Star Trek ever, to get back to the question, is that season 2 finale where Riker is in a coma and they just literally replay content from the season. It's like that is far worse. It's just a complete cop out. It's not even a season finale. There's no content there. You actually just like made Jonathan Frakes sit on a fucking doctor's table for 2 hours and act like he was out cold. It was terrible. I think that's the worst episode. These Are the Voyages isn't that bad, but something that I feel like would make the new Section 31 movie so good is if they bought into my fan service delusions and they actually did make Trip Tucker a Section 31 agent and they didn't kill him. That's the only way to make that like final episode good is if they make the holodeck recreation that Riker was going through inaccurate and they somehow continue Trip Tucker's story in some way. They could here's the thing, his Connor Trainer isn't even that old. They could say that he had a career with Section 31. He's still working in it, and then obviously maybe he could use like the door, the same one, what is it from that Michelle Yeoh walked through. Also in the TOS.
Guardian of Forever.
Yeah, the Guardian of Forever. They could easily use any one of the 100 ways to time travel in Star Trek and just have Connor Trainer return back to the timeline and maybe finish his relationship with T'Pol, because T'Pol is a Vulcan who lives a long time.
I mean, you can always climb the Black Mountain in Star Trek.
You could always climb the Black Mountain and see the koala.
I guess like there are many, like I have, my channel is all about like skippable episodes, and not like, and I look at badness on a lot of different metrics. Like, is it entertaining? No. Is it logical? No. Is it like, is there any good message here? No. Like, they just is like, even if you took out the racism, it would still suck. It's not
You get
a
one
good
scene.
You get one scene that has nothing to do with anything else at all. It's just the development of Data, and that's always worth watching, but that in itself doesn't make an episode. I'm glad that they focused on they saw what was developing with Data, and sort of like focused on that and made episodes of that and fleshed it out. But like with this, it's like they're trying to do the TOS thing of like, the Federation's so much better, this is why, and sort of squeezing in this diplomacy thing bid was ill-advised, because it seems like they did zero research before ever doing this. I mean, who beams into the freaking cargo bay for
why?
anything?
That was a question.
I mean, that's the only reason they gave them
Yes.
transporter technology, is so that they can abduct her. Because how else are you going to get off this
That's what I'm.
ship?
Yeah,
Like,
there's
it makes
really
no sense for them to
No,
be kind of a more, less developed or like primitive culture, I think is the better way they always put it. They don't really have technology, but the only reason you gave them a transporter, which makes zero sense, because if you understand transport technology, I know it's a lot harder, but you're like 100 years minimum away from understanding holodeck technology. And they were so interested with the holodeck. It makes no sense. They just did it so that they could abduct her from the cargo bay.
yeah. So there's no way that this works. Like, there's other episodes that like Up the Long Ladder structurally is about on par, but I think because this is harmful on top of being shitty, that what places it to me and is at the bare minimum the worst episode of TNG. Or it was the worst episode for a while. I think it's if it's not number one, it's incredibly close. So
Yeah,
that lady.
Sorry,
that lady from that episode, you just put her on the screen. I've such a big crush on her. She is so bad. She's amazing. She's the best part about that episode.
She's so haughty throughout the whole thing.
She's the best.
Like, we have and like the stereotypes on display are so egregious, like the angry black woman, the unreasonable warrior people, they can't be reasoned with in Code of Honor. Just like it, that scene was really really horrible, because like that scene was written with crayon, because I hated that whole discussion that led up to the sex. It wasn't the sex that bothered me. It was like, she goes, "Where's the bathroom?"
Wash my feet. No,
Yeah.
she wants to find a place.
Where's
to
the
wash her feet.
bathroom?
Do you not
And then
like
she
me, Mr.
goes-
Riker?
Right. And then she turns around and says, "Do you not like girls?" When he tells her where the bathroom is. Like, you're questioning someone's sexuality as a way to pressure someone sexually? Yikes. Yikes.
I don't think that's bad. Well, did she say that?
It is
like,
bad. It's really bad.
Did she say that like she was gonna wash her feet before?
Yes.
But here's the thing. That probably is bad. Maybe I don't understand. But
She was standing in goat crap with bare feet. Made sense.
But like, I think I interpreted that as like maybe like that's a part of in her planet. Like, if you asked like to wash your feet or something, that means you want to like fuck or
There,
something.
no,
Yeah, that's just gonna say that seems like a come on.
These folks are human. That's the whole reason that they're able to meddle, that the Prime Directive isn't even a factor. These aren't like aliens or anything.
Oh yeah,
So,
but
like,
that's true.
these
That they're a human
are,
colony.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's true. But I think I was confused about that. Wait. The Irish people like had a name though, like as though they were
Bring
aliens.
Lloydie, because like they were against modernity. That was like their whole thing.
Okay, so they were kind of like the Pilgrims. They weren't like an alien race. That's why I was confused.
Yeah,
They just had a
they're
title.
like they're space Amish.
Yeah, they're an ethnic group, or maybe
Yeah,
that's the right way of putting it.
Dell
They
brings
call
up
themselves
as a
neo-transcendentalists in the end.
Okay, so
yeah.
yeah.
As a
and-
queer person, if I'm flirting with a stranger, I will eventually ask if they're queer too. The thing is, I don't believe that answering a question to where the bathroom is appropriate to question their sexuality. That
Yeah.
was that specific framework is what I have an issue with. I don't care about, open, honest discussions of disclosure, but that's not what this was. This was not an earnest question. She was saying, "Oh, if you're not, your hands aren't all over me by now, you're gay," which is really bad.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I guess I was just not remembering the scene correctly. She probably was not being flirtatious enough to warrant saying that.
Right.
But
Yeah, at first,
remember
it
the
doesn't
real
seem
time.
like she is.
Remember the real time, like, I think the worst example of something kind of similar to that is the time that Riker actually got like sexually assaulted by that one doctor on the planet who was really into aliens and
Oh
forced him into
yeah,
doing
First
stuff.
Contact.
Yeah, it forced him into doing explicit acts in order to get him out of the hospital because she just like really likes aliens. And I think they thought that it was appropriate because it was a woman doing it and not a man at the time. I don't know why they thought that was like appropriate. But I guess like here's the thing, it's really bad. It's not like the best thing. It shouldn't happen. But I mean, I think I would rather this scene exist than not exist because it is like something that could feasibly happen in Star Trek. If you have an organization that visits so many planets all the time, there's probably going to be a couple people on that planet who have like fantasies about aliens. I think I like that. I like that aspect of it.
That's fair.
That they explore.
I mean,
I don't really.
there's like that episode. I mean, there's the whole question of consent, right? Like people don't enter Starfleet consenting to like making themselves the bargaining chip for diplomacy. If somebody's willing to go to there, like Riker was on that planet with the Amazon women or whatever, and that's what he did with what's her face while it was like a gender role reversal episode anyway.
Oh, Angel One,
yeah. So there's consent there. He obviously liked her, but in the case of like making, like if it's an expectation to make nice with aliens and you're expected to volunteer your body for that, I wow, okay. Gotta love that shirt.
I am ready for your sexy Riker shenanigans here today. And yeah, one of these days I'm gonna have to make that garment. I just gotta find the right.
I mean, he
cloth.
said that he was like up for wearing whatever, he said earlier in this very episode where he talks about wearing different outfits as a diplomatic gesture. And I think it's a little different than actually having sexual contact as an expectation.
I totally agree. Sorry, I wasn't trying to say that. I do think that like there's nothing to say that Riker like literally wasn't. I'm not trying to say the R word on the stream, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's one of the few words we try to avoid.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that. But he was like sexually assaulted. Basically, he didn't really want to do that. I just think that it's kind of like I was just saying that I'm okay with it existing in Star Trek because it could feasibly happen. Like I'm not against like them showing bad things that could happen in this job. But that's all I was trying to say. That's the only part about the scene that I appreciate is that could actually happen in the line of a Starfleet like first contact person.
Yeah, so I basically agree with almost everything Gannon said. I don't think this is quite the worst episode of Star Trek. Very close. On my list, I have it 16th from the bottom. You know, things like Spock's brain and definitely, as we've talked about, Up the Long Ladder. I think that's worse. I think that's way the fuck worse than this. At least this, it's not good on a narrative level or on a cultural level, but it's at least a start to finish plot without a ton of filler. Which a lot of other episodes, especially like Up the Long Ladder, they had to put like a D plot in there with Pulaski and Worf just to fill some time. So
That one scene in the start was the only watchable thing of that
Yep,
whole
I agree.
episode. Otherwise, it's just horror, and this insane, it's just so completely out of pocket to say these asexual beings and these drunk Irish folks have to get together. They're forcing them to like what? What is
Kind of
that?
suggesting it wasn't the ploy in the show. Like, if you guys don't find like a right way to breed, then you'll just die out, right?
Because they were
Yeah.
copying, pasting people into existence, and they were running out of ink. So
Yeah. So, but like Picard was just being like a mediator and be like, "Hey, you guys should fuck."
but that was what that was like their arrangement, and they were like, hey, bonus, you get to have more than one wife if you want. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, they didn't see. They kind of liked the idea of being Mormons. I think if I remember correctly, they were kind of hype about it.
Oh yeah. Well, the Irish half
the
of
one
it.
thing
The
I
other
will
the clones
say
were like, no.
about with Dustin about saying that that episode is really problematic and it's also like like racist is that I think it's just a little less problematic when you take into account that it was definitely written and made by people of like European descent. You know what I mean? Like most of the
Yeah.
people in the writers' room were white and they were just creating like a colony of like quirky Scottish or Irish people. I don't know which they were.
The thing is though, like, and I actually did a video on this as well. There are specific, very harmful Irish stereotypes that they used in here. Like they wrote them in the fact that they're super drunk. Like the fact, like he doesn't even like the head guy doesn't. He immediately asks for booze. Like as soon as he steps off the transporter, he's being saved from exploding, and his first words are, where's the booze? Can you marry my daughter? And it's like, and also these people are shown to be ignorant, and when they actually are contemporary humans too. Like they're just choosing to live without modern stuff, modern technology. So to make them like stupid was really a choice.
Maybe he was stressed out. Like, maybe if I had a near-death experience, I might want a beer, honestly.
No, we never got to turnabout intruder here. I'm not sure. It's only mildly applicable in the way of Star Trek, like botching talking about a topic.
It's so weird that Star Trek ended on Turnabout Intruder. I think that like that's the last episode that you watch is Turnabout Intruder. It's like not a bad episode. It's fine, but it's just a weird note to end on.
I mean, season 3 is a weird note to end on.
Yeah,
they could have quit while they were ahead with season 2.
I was so surprised to find out how much Dustin does not like the TOS. He puts all of the episodes at the bottom of his list are TOS episodes.
No, the
All right,
very
at least
last.
I saw
was
a lot
just
of
about
them.
to say,
Yeah.
okay. Most of like the bottom 15 are TNG season 1 and 2 and TOS season 3. Absolutely. Yes, I make no apologies about that. We don't even get to a Voyager, DS9 or Enterprise episode for like 20 episodes because so much of the end of TOS and a few through its run they're bad. When you stack it up against other Trek, I mean,
oh, they
I can't
probably
with a lot
are.
of
I
them.
can't even argue with you. I'm not knocking at you for disliking the TOS, but yeah, I just think I like
Yeah,
it
it
because
just
I
is.
find it funny.
And I don't hate TOS or
Women
hate
cannot
all
be
of
captains.
TOS.
I don't remember that being a thing, but
That was only
Yeah,
in one.
this
It was
episode
only in the
right
pilot
here.
episode.
Oh, okay.
It was only in the
Okay.
pilot. Oh, yeah, that was
No,
true.
the final episode in Turnabout of Truth. That's what it was all about. About this
Okay.
chick, she really wanted to be a captain, and like, she couldn't.
That is
yes,
true.
that's super sexist and terrible.
And also,
Yes,
the
that was a
pilot
terrible way
episode
to
of
end
Star
it.
Trek with Jeffrey Hunter, he was like, I don't know how I feel about a woman on my bridge.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
has
he's
aged
like the thing is
warm
like
milk.
throughout TOS they make little comments here and there about women blah blah blah, like the stereotype, and have a little chuckle on the bridge when Uhura's away or Nurse Chapel isn't in earshot or whatever. But that's pretty horrible.
But yeah, I also agree with Gannon that Shades of Grey, the end of season 2 of TNG, that's just the
pisses
worst
me off
episode.
because TNG season 2 is so amazing. It's got
Like,
like
it's-
a lot of
I wouldn't say
entertaining episodes
amazing,
to
but
me.
Like,
it's better
I-
than season 1.
I think I
it's a
really
step
like
up.
it, Dustin. I think I really like over a handful of episodes from season 2, and people might not agree with me, but I think Dr. Pulaski did more as a doctor in that one season than like Beverly Crusher.
I
did
agree
in,
with
like,
you.
over
I agree
4
with you
seasons.
100%.
Dr.
Sir.
Pulaski was amazing, and from a person who really appreciates that aspect of Star Trek, how they do such a good job to educate us about doctors in the medical field, because they're obviously needed in space, and their code of conduct. There's a lot of great episodes that deal with moral and ethical dilemmas, especially with like Dr. Phlox and Dr. Bashir. Dr. Pulaski was great. And she also is an older senior character, which is another great aspect of her character. I liked how she had like a fling with Riker's dad. That episode was interesting and had a good narrative. I love Dr. Pulaski. I loved a lot of things about season 2.
I'm not just completely disagreeing with you. I think it has a couple of the best episodes in Star Trek, absolutely. But it also has a lot of the garbage, like Up the Long Ladder and this and a few others. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I think if they had an opportunity to make a doctor unlike Bones, and like with Beverly Crusher, she's just momming everybody, sort of similar to Troy. They sort of cut them both from the same cloth. It's sort of they're not very distinct characters, and Pulaski came in as distinct, but I think they fell into the trap of making her very similar to Bones. That's my one critique of her character. However, I do think that her presence was punchier. I think that she challenged Picard in a way that was extremely necessary. I think that she was given more meat, acting wise, to chew on, like the one where she got really old and almost died. And that similarly happened to Bones too. But the way that she sort of just resigned herself to that, and in order to protect everybody, was really striking. And that was the only good part of that episode. But yeah.
Where she diverges from Bones is, I think, where her greatest strength is. Yes, she's a Bones character. That's like the basis. And then she even starts the little jabs with the Spock-like character in Data, not Data. But by the end, just this season 2, she makes this big shift where like she goes from like, well, Data's just this thing that helps us out, to I respect Data as a person. Something that Bones didn't do in 3 seasons and 6 movies.
Like, the thing is, Spock could dish it out as well as he could take it. Data is not that kind of person. He'll hear a snarky comment, and because of the way that he processes humor, he's just like, I don't understand that comment, but okay. And sort of keeps pushing past it. So she's just bullying him. And that was just hard to watch, to try to see them replicate that chemistry with a Data who is just sort of like this robot trying to figure things out.
It's funny how we're like having a live stream about like racist Star Trek episodes, and we have not brought up Bones, because like Dr. McCoy he's one of my favorite characters, but he is just straight up racist. Like,
he's just 60 Southern. That's not
you
racist.
green-blooded Vulcan. He says Vulcan weird, like with like incorrectly, almost
Like he's always drunk when he
yeah,
says
like
it.
there's like hate in it. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Yes, I do.
slur.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
definitely
Oh yeah.
there's definitely a tête-à-tête, and it kind of made me wonder if like the message that TOS was trying to get across was like the way we overcome racism is that just that everybody's racist. We'll just go back and forth and hate on each other and have no regard for how this dynamic may play out power-wise outside of this discussion. That's how we'll figure it out. I just thought like, oh, they'll just jab each other.
So obsessed with the color of his blood. It's so strange. He makes so many
Green
comments
blooded
about it.
Vulcan.
Like that green blood pumping through that heart of yours. It's
right. Like it's
ridiculous.
notable that every time he got upset with Spock, that's when it would come out.
Yeah, just straight to racism. Like he's on Xbox Live and he's 12 or something. It's bad. Dr. McCoy, I mean, like, yeah, Dr. McCoy is just straight up the only explicitly racist character in Star Trek, I think, that I could think of.
But
Beyond
again, when he was
Miles.
written, that wasn't.
Oh,
He
yeah,
wasn't
yeah, that's true.
racist. Yeah, by modern standards, and yeah, by any he is. But you know what I mean. It was a different time.
I would
And-
really just like them to remake that episode. Make this your last battlefield. But if I were to rewrite it and I were to like use that narrative a bit better, I would probably have a crew visiting a spaceport and they like need to trade with the people at the spaceport. And then somebody comes up and is like, oh, we need to buy something. And they're like, bro, we're not selling to you. You're a Gavorp, and we hate Gavorps over here. And then the captain walks up to them and they're like, bro, you are on a space station where you interact with like aliens that don't even have physical form, but you are discriminating against the Gavorpagorps. It's just like, fitting more on the arbitrary narrative. Because one of the best things that Star Trek has ever taught me is that having differences and everything is great, because like hating somebody for being different makes no sense. Like it makes zero sense. It's arbitrary to dislike somebody in any way for being different, because Star Trek captains spend their whole entire lives interacting with aliens that are so fucking different, like omniscient beings that can control energy with their minds, and they have to coexist and learn from them. So like, why would you ever, out of all your alien patrons, decide to be racist against that one? I don't know. I just feel like they should make another episode that is not as bad as your last battlefield, but with as good of a premise as that episode tried to do.
All right, we are like way over on time here.
Yeah, I'm
Ish.
sorry
I
for
mean,
yapping.
Hey, that's all right. We've been having fun also. So as long as you guys are having fun, I'm having fun, and I hope the people that are watching are having fun.
There's no football on today.
The Pro Bowl.
That's fake. That's not real. The Pro Bowl is not
I was
real
gonna ask,
anymore.
AFC or NFC, sir?
Birds aren't real.
Well, I'm a Vikings fan, so NFC all the way. I mean, I only get to interact with the NFC or AFC teams like once every 4 years. It like rotates. I think that's how
That's
it
a
works.
good point. Yes, yep.
I don't really
It
care
is.
about teams like the Baltimore Ravens too much, but I hate the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm an Ohioan and I hate the Cincinnati Bengals.
What
I
was
feel
it
you.
about? Like we hate people for arbitrary reasons. Sorry.
Cincinnati Bengals fans aren't people. Sorry, dude. I hate Cincinnati. They're a terrible team, and yeah, ugly ass uniforms.
Well, despite being from New England, I wasn't a Patriots fan when Brady was a big thing, and I'm definitely not this year.
What? Who do you root for?
Whoever makes me money that I bet on this week.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
I don't have a favorite team. I enjoy the football, and if I can make a couple of bucks on it, that's even better.
That definitely works.
So, is there anything that we want to touch on for Code of Honor before we get out of here? Final thoughts.
I think like this might be like Dell brought up a point here. I would watch a channel where someone fixes old episodes of Star Trek.
Puts
This
right what
might
once
be
went wrong.
very close to being irredeemable. And I think that's
Yeah.
what to me makes it the worst. Like
Yeah, we
there's
could
ways
come up with a way to
that
make
Shades
it
of
work.
Grey could have been that finale could have been rewritten in so many ways.
Yeah.
Even within the premise that it had. But with this, I don't think so.
Not counting the two-parter. Like if you count that as like a single episode, which on a lot of streaming platforms it is, they packed them together. Like this is like technically like the third episode of the series that you watch, and it's just outrageous that it's this heaping pile of mid that's this insensitive. And it's not that entertaining either. It's kind of boring. The whole trope with the guy trying to outdo his wife is just kind of basic and not that scandalous. It's a bad episode.
And the sexism of like a chick fight. Come on.
Do we even need to do a normal out of 10? Because like I don't think any of us are gonna give it more than 1. I give it a 1. I guess it's an episode titled Star Trek.
Yeah,
you get 1 point. Everybody gets 1 point, even Shades of Grey.
No, stay with 0. It's big fat goose egg for me.
Fair enough.
yeah, I don't even want to give it a rating. It's ass. No,
So
it doesn't
that's,
deserve a number rating. It gets an ass rating.
So that's a 0.3 between us. Wonderful. What a great episode of Trek. Yep.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Norman.
listening to my yap.
Thanks
Well,
for
thank you. I really appreciate the shit you
Yeah.
showed up, dude. You should
Yeah,
come
thank
chill with
you.
us more often.
See,
Yeah.
like the only unfortunate thing is that you always have these at 2:00 when the Vikings are playing. So when the Vikings aren't playing, I'll try to show up for sure.
Yeah. Whenever we get a bunch of us together again, we've had the Mirror Universe on the agenda here for weeks. Ton of questions ready to go. And a few other things. I think we want to do Queers in Space at some point. Gannon, do you have? If you were going to do an episode, what would you want to talk with people about? A single episode, a topic?
Oh,
It could be
so
anything.
the only the thing that interests me most about Star Trek right now, as a I don't, I'm getting older every day. I'm not even a young fan anymore. Younger fan, is I'm worried about the future of this franchise so much and what they're actually going to do with it. I also am so interested because you said earlier that you don't really care what form Star Trek is in as long as it fits, like, gives us a narrative, a nice story, and it fits the original trope. I slightly disagree because, like, I'm so thirsty for the 90s soap opera that I binge every year. I kind of want them to make at least one series that kind of, I haven't seen much of the Orville, but I think people say the Orville does a great job of replicating the 90s essence of Trek. Just have one series that's like way less flashy. I just want to know what you guys think that we should do to make Star Trek more successful, because I don't think it's that successful right now. I think it's just barely alive.
I would prefer that we forego the alien analogies for a little while. Honestly, I think we can just face things head on, and that's why I'm really into like the United Earth story. Sorry, I dropped out there. My internet just like, but yeah.
Things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we need to, like, everything needs to be like 90s Trek or like newer Trek, but it needs a better mix. We literally haven't had an episode that's like some morally ambiguous gray area being explored. It's just been like these fun actiony episodes.
The last time
that
I really
works.
felt like we had anything that we could call Star Trek, and as crazy as it sounds, you guys are going to be pissed at me when I say this, but it is Discovery Season 1, when they actually gave us a semblance of a story with more than 10 episodes. Strange New Worlds is unanimously, like, good. Like, everybody likes it. Even haters kind of like it. You can, there's things that they do wrong.
Right.
They could probably do Captain Kirk better. Some of the TOS canon isn't exactly respected, but the biggest complaint that everybody has with the show is it shoots itself in the leg because it is just not long enough. It's just the lack of content. You cannot expect me to wait a year for just 10 episodes. I hate how the standard for every show nowadays is like some 10 episode season. Pretty much every show on Paramount is like that. I don't like how that's their production standard. I need at least like 13 to 16. I just need something more.
Yeah, Prodigy getting canceled definitely made me concerned as well, because
So
that is the only
Yeah.
series out right now that has anything going for it message wise to me, overtly. But yeah, it's and it's sort of like waved off because it's a kid show, but I genuinely think it's trying to do something a little bit more message wise than the other series for sure.
Yeah.
I really want to make a video about this, talking about how bad some of the decisions are with them trying to appeal to the youth. They did that Kid Cudi collab that did nothing.
Oh my
And
good God.
it did nothing. All of the comment sections are terrible. People don't have an opinion on it. It didn't bring any new viewers to Star Trek. And also the little Fortnite collab, I played it with my friends and even recorded it. It
It's
is
the
below
worst
par.
thing I've
It is
ever
below.
played.
It is so below par. And then second, as good as Star Trek Prodigy is, it's not smart in this day and age to try to make like a kid show like this. It's not profitable. Like it's not.
But it's not about the show itself making profit. It's about
about the
making
merchandise.
kids, that too.
But I
But
just
it's
think
about
the kids
it's
aren't
about
gonna,
bringing in the new viewers for the next generation.
I
So
don't
in
think it's
10
gonna do
years,
it.
then those kids are going to be
Synergy.
watching the adult Star Treks.
That's okay. That's true. They're planning for the future. That is actually a good point. Like
Yeah.
the
I thought
it should exist. It should exist because it would do well for the future long term. But at the same time, like we do need to make something that's actually like a cash cow that will grow the series so that we can get those viewers to actually like watch Prodigy.
We need
I
a
agree.
good, solid flagship that is world building, that is in a place that doesn't rely on it. It's not so far flung in the future that they and they just gloss over world building entirely. My thought, if they're going to have a carry on like they sort of started to do as Picard season 1, but like after Voyager,
Okay.
why not start there?
I want to see the Lost Era in between.
Is that when they had the
TOS?
all the
TNG.
burgundy shit on?
Yeah, the Maroons.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
in between
Maroons.
TOS and TNG.
Dude, I mean, here's the thing. Like, what he said was so right. What she said was so right about we need like a flagship show because,
Yeah,
Strange
I
New
agree.
Worlds, as good as it is, and as it's like the first thing you've presented to us that does remind us of Star Trek, and we like it. It's not powerful enough. It doesn't have a high enough power level. We're not to Super Saiyan 2 yet to be a flagship show. It is suffering from the lack of content. And it's just literally a fan service show. Not a lot happens in it that would ever really affect the timeline. It's a fan service show. There's so many scenes that are just downright fan service. They have Captain Kirk driving in the Hellcat. They have Captain Kirk and Spock meeting for the first time in a mid-ass episode. They have Captain Pike wearing all the really cool outfits in Admiral April. I think the Admiral April is really the only part that's actually builds upon like lore. But other than that, what have they done to build upon the lore except like kind of change it with the Gorn?
One thing I do respect it for is that it took like characters that have been forgotten, like number 1, like Captain Pike, like Uhura, honestly, and fleshed them out into fully round beings and did those characters justice. But do I think it's building meaningfully on a world that we've this giant sandbox with infinite possibilities? Not entirely,
Also, it's just kind of strange, as well as they have done these characters. When they first announced this show, I thought it was just it was so bold of them to put all of these characters together on the Enterprise. Like we have to have basically Kirk's crew almost. And then it's the slow transition into Kirk's crew, because now we've even seen Scotty with that season 2 finale. I just thought that when I saw the cast and it was like, oh, Doctor Mbenga, it was also Nurse Chapel and Uhura. They were all in the Enterprise at this moment in time. And then also Captain Kirk is showing up every other day.
Yeah,
he ain't got nothing better to do. He's just chilling.
Yeah, it's not like he's one of the best and brightest, most talented lieutenants out there. It's not like he actually has things to do with his life.
Now he's first officer, and at this point in Strange New Worlds. But yeah,
okay, gotcha. He's not Lieutenant Kirk anymore.
He's Lieutenant Commander Kirk.
Lieutenant Commander Kirk. What do you guys think about Paul Wesley's Kirk? Because I just think it's borderline
No.
acceptable.
No,
I think it's borderline acceptable at best.
not even.
Okay, I totally like. Yep, I think I might even agree with you, Dustin. I'm trying to be neutral here, but
I call him
don't-
not funny Jim Carrey.
He doesn't remind me of Captain Kirk at all. Captain Kirk is such a cool fucking freak, and he's way too much of a well composed, like he's
Yes.
way too
Yep.
well behaved. Why is he acting like he's like a functional member of society or something? Like he's a suave.
Maybe the arc for him is that once he gets a ship, he just goes full, just fully bananas. And now he's like just keeping his last little bits of sanity left.
Yeah, I've thought about this and like trying to make myself want to like it. Like I like exploring Spock, exploring humanity and like his emotional side before we know he becomes like super serious Mr. Vulcan through TOS. But I can't imagine what the thing is that's going to happen in Kirk's life that's going to cause him to go from super serious to like, let's fuck around and find out.
I also think it's just a wasted opportunity to me, Kirk is legend. He is the most famous character in this franchise. To the people in the 24th century, he's literally like a fucking Western cowboy legend, like Davy Crockett. Like he's the GOAT. I just don't see this version of him transforming into, and I know the TOS is an old show and we can transform and shape it however we want, but not to this degree, man. I don't see this guy becoming the Captain Kirk that I know. Captain Kirk is a freak. And another thing, he is like the Luke Skywalker of our series. Disney, it was the most insane thing when they brought out Luke Skywalker. People were going crazy for like a whole entire year. It's a little lackluster when you bring Lieutenant Kirk. I think we might have even seen him at the season finale of season 1, right? Or when did we first see him?
Yes. Yep. No, that was the first time we saw him.
I just think that seeing him so much in season 2, trying to make him like a cast member is such a mistake. Ethan Peck's Spock is so good. It's like 10 out of 10.
In the best episodes, though, Shatner's pretty measured. Like when you talk about damn it. The one where it's them and the Romulans.
Yeah, I think that's what
Balance
we're
of
talking
Terror.
about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Balance of Terror.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
you're talking
that
about
whole, right. Balance of Terror, he was like very measured throughout that. And he's very strategic and he thinks things through. It's really the worst episodes where you get to see him really just just completely flip out because he's trying desperately to save a shitty script.
Mm-hmm. That's true. There's a lot of moments where he's acting cool and composed. I agree. His version of cool and composed is not the same because when Captain Kirk is being cool and composed, it's either because he's like doing business. He's like talking to another member of Starfleet. Either that or he's just trying to rizz up some like planetary official or some character. I think the fact that I'm sorry, this may be weird, but I think the fact that this new Kirk has not tried to like be flirty or kind of charismatic with anyone yet is just kind of out of character. He doesn't remind me of Captain Kirk. That's all I have to say. He just doesn't remind me of Captain Kirk.
Nope.
He's not the guy that would cheat on the Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah.
That to me is that's the thing that you have to sort of keep in mind in the back of your head whenever you see Kirk in this stage, because he's lied his way to the top. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that so
the
maybe
best
he
versions
knows
of Kirk. I agree with you.
It
We're like
be,
from the movies with the Kobayashi Maru. That was
right,
like the best versions of Kirk.
If they use that as a plot point and saying like maybe his past will catch up to him one day or something, anything that sort of like explains why he's so flat, that would be good. But that's
the
not
only thing
here.
I can get to explain it is that like Carol Marcus, he's gonna have a kid now. He's gonna dump him and tell him.
Oh yeah,
fuck
he
off,
is held down.
and
That's
I guess.
So here's the thing, like I actually had a Mandela effect because when they mentioned Carol Marcus holding him down in this series, I was like, wait, is that a canon mistake? No way that happened. But you go and you watch The Wrath of Khan, and that's literally exactly what happened. Like, Kirk was in a steady relationship. There was a kid or something, and he just fucking dipped.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I thought the same thing. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
What-
like
we-
I had
thought
to
they
go
first
back and
met.
check.
He didn't. I didn't know that he knew he had a kid.
Yeah,
until
that's
that,
what
and
I
it's
was
like,
saying.
Yep.
Because like
there,
I thought
there
that
it
they
is.
had like
It's
a
there.
reunion in the movie, and that David had to be like, "Oh, so you're like my dad or something." But
Yeah, I
no,
think it's
like
because of the way David comes off of all about it, and
yeah,
because he
I
doesn't
just
know who his dad.
Picard season 3 has no original ideas. That's the
Yeah, and
conclusion we're
then
drawing.
that even becomes 10,000 times worse there.
Wait.
But
we should do a whole live stream just talking about how bad Picard season 2 is.
oh, but then I'm gonna be on. It's not that I love it, but I like it more than most people. I think it has the best moments in all of Picard, even during some really shitty episodes.
Mhm.
Season 3 is just a free fall swan dive in hell.
It's just
the
like,
whole
okay,
time.
guys, Terry,
We got
Terry
the
was
D
literally-
back. Yeah.
Terry was literally like, okay, guys, I'm the showrunner. I didn't really do that good of a job, so fuck it. We're just gonna go gung ho. We're getting all the crew back together. We're gonna be doing like Tokyo drifts in space over a Borg cube. We're gonna be doing it all.
Woo!
Ignore the past 2 seasons. Wait, what about Data's daughter? She doesn't exist. We're not gonna mention her to Data. Oh, what about the dude that Q brought back to life, Elnor? Fuck him. He doesn't exist. We don't have enough money to recast him or even mention the intellectual rights to his character.
But we do for fireworks in
Yeah.
space.
And then there was like a really bad episode where somebody, I think I kind of liked what they did with Agnes, but of course nothing is going to become of that because following them turning Agnes into this new faction of Borg Queen, they just went and finally axed the Borg. They were like, we're finally done with the Borg. We need to kill them off.
Yeah.
But are they dead? Nothing really dies in Star Trek anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
just
they're too
stuck into
profitable
it.
to be dead.
they're gonna just
I
stick
think
you with
so.
the door and thaw you out when they need you.
All right. So now that we have like gone so far and beyond what our original topic was and gone up 40 minutes over, I think I'm going to call this. But some of this, we definitely need another live stream talking about some of these things because clearly there is a lot of meat to get into. So really, Gannon, thank you, and Vanessa, thank you for joining us today. Gannon, you didn't
Gannon.
get to introduce yourself. Gannon has a YouTube channel by the same name, at Gannon YouTube. Go check him out. And we'll see you guys back here next week. I think we're gonna, in light of Super Bowl Sunday, I think we're gonna talk sports and Trek, which is mostly baseball, but we got that good Ambo Jitsu. And what the hell is Parisi Squares? We're gonna try and figure it out next week.
It's really
So thank-
dangerous. That's all we know.
Stratagem.
Stratagema, yep. So check us out next week again, 2:00. Maybe we'll actually get done before the Super Bowl that time. And until then, live long